Video, you'll learn about what the Watergate trials were. Well, in order to do that, you gotta know a little bit about the break-in. So we're gonna go into each person's part in it. Then we'll go into some of the legal stuff, talk about the actual trials and dates, who did what, who said who said what, as well as who was convicted and what happened to each party.
President Nixon was really paranoid about his re-election. So paranoid that he formed a special investigators unit called the Plumbers to clog the leaks in government files. Nixon's Attorney General, John Mitchell, seen here, and Gordon Liddy, seen here. We'll go ahead and recircle him. Planned the break-in, as they were both former CIA agents and had the training to do so. They also had help from this guy, E. Howard Hunt. He was also a former CIA agent, and we see him here during the actual trials. Alright, moving on, we're going to talk about the plumbers. No, not that kind of plumber. These plumbers. The people who were supposed to clog those leaks in the government files. These are the people who actually broke in. From left to right, we have James McCord, Vergrico, he has a weird name, Gonzalez, Frank Stigritz, Enrique Martinez, and Bernard Barker, all of which had been former CIA agents and had the training to break in and wire the Watergate offices. All of these people, except for Nixon, were originally put on trial. So we're going to put a big X on him for the time being. On January the 8th, 1973, so let's write that down for you. There we go. And E. Howard Hunt, this guy, remember? He pleaded guilty to 6 counts, stating that no higher-ups were involved on January the 11th, 1973. 4 days after Hunt pleads guilty, these 4 plumbers also plead guilty to the charges put upon them. It wasn't until the 30th that Liddy and McCord got convicted, as they had pleaded innocent to all charges. McCord here, he thought he was sly, so he waited 2 months until his conviction had been done, so 2 months after his conviction, and he writes his judge a letter claiming that pressure had been put on the plumbers to stay quiet. This letter, in fact. And it goes on and on about the different people and how people had put pressure on the plumbers in order to keep them from giving names and information. People such as John Mitchell and President Nixon. So we can take that X off of him because now he's involved.
On May 18th, the televised hearings began. John Dean testified that Nixon was part of the cover-up, and the moment that Dean says Nixon was involved, Nixon orders that there will no longer be any taping in the Oval Office. He also refused to surrender the pre-existing tapes. Later on the day of August 29th, Nixon loses his first court battle, and the judge orders him to hand over the tapes. A couple months later, well, quite a few months later, April 30th, the tapes are released to the public, and the public is absolutely shocked at the profanities within this tape, because with every cuss word there was, they would fill it in with explicit word, and it would say just that every time something happened. An example of those televised hearings. As you can see, North Carolina Senator Sam Ervin led the televised hearings as an attempt by the Watergate Committee to bring down the White House.
Now, from our studios in Washington, here is ABC News correspondent Frank Reynolds.
Good morning. At this hour, a select committee of the United States Senate is about to begin public hearings on something called Watergate. 1 year ago today, Watergate was just an address, a rather fancy, expensive address in this capital city, but now it has come to symbolize much more. The word crisis is perhaps too mild to apply to Watergate. President Nixon's White House has been shaken. Indeed, the entire executive branch of the government has been jolted by the continuing accusations and revelations, most of them, it must be kept in mind, not yet proved. 7 men, only 7 men, have been convicted for their part in the burglary. We see now Senator Sam Ervin, who is the chairman of the Select Committee, engaging in some banter there with the photographers who are clustered all about him. Senator Ervin will be the man wielding the gavel during these hearings, and he is about to do that right now. Senator Ervin has called these hearings the most important investigation ever entrusted to the Congress. He is well known as perhaps the foremost authority on the Constitution in the United States Senate, a former judge. There goes the gavel, and the Watergate hearings are underway.
I think, Sam, you've got copies of the resolution. Thanks for putting in the record. You've got copies of the resolution in the record. The committee will come to order. Today, the Select Committee on Presidential Campaign Activities begins hearings.
There are people who are still upset over what happened at Watergate, and they have the right to be. Our government got paranoid, so they decided that they were just gonna bug in and hear what they wanted to, even though they were in the running to win, no matter what. Just because our president got a little worried, he got to bug an entire office. It's not right. That's why everyone was so worried about it. That's why they held the televised trials, as a way to let the public know what was going on in their own country. It's also why they released the tapes, and that's what also shocked the public so much, was hearing the man that ran their country cuss and curse so profoundly, which at the time was so much more frowned upon than it is today. There are also people today that have no idea what happened at the Watergate trials. They don't even know what happened at the Watergate Hotel. Even though many of them have seen the reference in Forrest Gump, they don't know what it means. So, as a whole, the government was crazy. They tried to take over and get into people's business, which wasn't even theirs. Because they thought that since they were the government, it was okay. I'd also like to thank ABC News for having such awesome sources out there on the internet. That's where that televised trial came from. And all the pictures came from WatergateFiles.com. Pretty sure that's what it's called. I'm going to leave links underneath this. And have a good day.